The plan was to have G&Ts for this video, but we're sticking to the sparkling elderflower refresher because we're back on that gin buzz. I thought these straws would make it fun, but it's just, we keep spilling it everywhere.
Don't blame the straw. Happy publication day.
Thanks, yeah. My first novel's out today. It's in Irish bookshops, free worldwide shipping on Book Depository, and it is on Amazon. And there is going to be an audiobook, but it's not being voiced by me, it's being voiced by an actress. Yeah, if you've clicked into this video thinking we did it means something else, it's not that.
It's not that dirty.
Yeah, you can stay tuned. I think I know what you're thinking, and just hang about. Not too long of a wait left.
We've both accomplished really big life goals. So we're having a celebration.
Little celebration, yeah. So Thomas has his dream job now and is all settled in, and I've just done my dream job thing. This is so amazing still. I can't get over it. I've been staring at this since it came in the post. We both lived in Spain together last year, and whilst Thomas was studying like all hours of the day, I was writing this novel.
Yeah.
And
it's unreal.
we're big believers in blind faith combined with hard work. If we get 5,000 like button smashes,
Not
just 5,000.
too many.
5,000 thumbs ups on this video, and we've agreed that we'll make a video full of advice for if you have a big dream that you want to make come true.
Yeah. It'll be our crash course in blind faith.
What do you know of my novel? What do you think it's about? Because I've not really told him hardly anything about
I've
it.
heard feck all that I was there most of the time.
It's
you were
because-
writing it.
yeah.
Like you're in the same room and you were writing at a meter.
And you'd
away
come
from
over and
me.
I'd be like, stop looking. If anyone else is creative, or if anyone else who follows me writes, let me know if you feel that way, where until something's finished, it's just so uncomfortable, the idea of sharing it.
Yeah.
And you seeing this carcass of a story.
I know it's about a girl named Erin, and she's not happy with her life, and her dad's like supporting her, and she's all jealous of her roommate, and she's just cancelled her wedding, and her alco granny gives her like a necklace or something, and then she's able to see alternate realities.
Yeah, well, kind of. Yeah, pretty much.
This is what I've gathered.
So yeah, I'm one of those people who I'll often wonder, like, what if? And this whole story came about after a number of things, but we were having a conversation over and over and over again about the fact that, you know, we'd been friends for many years, and we almost got together on several different occasions. The night where we did finally kiss, it so easily may not have happened.
Yeah.
And we always imagine how awful, or what would life be like if that hadn't happened.
Because I would have been moving away within a couple of weeks after that. So if you hadn't gone to that party on that night, and we hadn't stayed there as late as we did, and if I hadn't had the courage to try anything, and there was just so many little things that happened that night that if any of them weren't there, like we never would have ended up going out. Because I'd be gone. I'd be in another country for like nearly 2 years.
I know,
and I'd just never see you.
It's so awful because we're so happy together, you know. And I remember one night while we were over in Spain together, we watched the movie About Time, and I was thinking how, because in that movie he has the ability to travel through time.
But there's this family secret, and the secret is that the men in the family can travel in time.
This is such a weird joke.
It's seriously not a joke.
And I would love the ability to be able to see alternate versions of my life had I done things differently in the past. So I really wanted to weave that into a plot. Like, I started thinking about this, I was on an airplane and I was looking out the window, just daydreaming and all. The story kind of grew from there. I love magic realism, or like contemporary novels that have casual magic in them, and I thought it would be a really cool writing tool to explore. Am I getting all too writery now? Basically, I'm going to read him chapter 1 of my book.
I just wrote this enormous novel. Look at all these words.
The text isn't tiny, so don't be intimidated by it. Go and buy it. Go support. I want to know your thoughts. I want to know if you find the protagonist to be as frustrating as I do. But she really grew on me as I wrote. I really pilfered my best friend Callum's humour for a lot of the interactions, and I want to see if you can hear his voice coming through.
It's Melanie Murphy.
And yeah, I'm really nervous. It all kicks off in chapter 4, but this is just a little bit of, you know, setting the scene, showing you what's up, you know?
Okay, I'm
Right?
excited. Welcome to Late Night with Tom.
And Melanie. Oh, this is what they used to do back in the day before there was like television and internet and stuff like that. Someone would sit in the corner of a room and read books to each other.
Read to me.
Read to you. I'm going to read to my babies.
Yeah.
This is practice.
Me too.
Okay, chapter 1 is called Beggy, which is the protagonist's nickname. Okay. I remember John Green did this when The Fault in Our Stars first came out, so that's where I got this idea. It was the springtime I hoped I'd soon forget, Stephen Hawking's last, which deeply upset Granny even though she didn't believe in science, and the dawn of my unravelling. There was no chance I could avoid telling Granny, and every chance her peace would evaporate when I did, like alcohol, her favourite, brought to the boil. She won't be a happy woman. At the end of a long, eventless Wednesday working in Sugar Pot Cafe, I mulled over how to tell her. The worry had consumed me for weeks as my visit home to Ireland loomed closer. Dad didn't really care, of course. He'd never been Dan's biggest fan. But unfortunately, how to tell your old-school romantic granny you've just called off your wedding wasn't yielding any useful search results on Google. It would have been an alright wedding. Lovely pictures, shitty best man speech, excellent cake, and not awful consummation. But the marriage, as my best friend Reed had put it, like pulling teeth for 3 years tops till the inevitable crushing divorce. Reed Williams' honesty was iron in a world of fragile reassurances. Miss, excuse me, miss, I ordered a soya latte. This is a regular latte with cow's milk. It's like me. The cafe's last customer of the day, with an elegant updo and impeccable eyeliner, looked at me across the counter with the most rested of bitch faces. Oh, are you sure? I mean, of course, let me change that. Then, as she sat back down with her fellow bitch faces, not again, Erin. My insufferable manager, Kenneth. How many bloody ears does he have? You sure I'm safe to let you close up for me, Beglin? You won't leave the place a pile of ash and rubble. Third slip-up of the day, young lady, he warned, twirling the few hairs of his meagre beard. Young lady. Feigned laughter followed by another meek sorry was all I could afford to respond. My bank balance begged me to continue taking Kenneth's shit and stop hiding in the broom cupboard, virtually scrolling through travel photography online when the cafe grew busy. He was definitely grown wise to my extended pee breaks, during which I'd imagine being anywhere but there. Kenneth, fancying himself as a thoughtful hero type, offered to help me with the end-of-day duties, but his arm was already stuffed into his jacket sleeve and his body angled toward the front door, edging to escape. I politely declined. Alone, I cleared up empty cups and newspapers that screamed garbage headlines about the Prime Minister's body double and all manner of doom and gloom, counted the last of the money in the till, tugged off my grubby apron, turned off the lights and locked up shop. London office workers swarmed around me, everyone with their eyes on pavement cracks and in their own little worlds, as I pulled my phone from my pocket to text Reed. I popped in my earphones with one hand and typed with the other. Meet in Palace Gardens, our spot, in half an hour. I need to stop by Dan's house later to pick up some posts before I head to the new place. Not ready to face him yet. Shitting it. Please bring calories. A little blue tick immediately appeared beside my message. Fine. You're about the only creature I can tolerate right now anyway, but it's your fault I still have no abs and I hate you for it. Kiss, kiss, kiss. My lips stretched into the first genuine smile they'd formed in days. Then I closed up my denim jacket, rescued my old bicycle from a nearby lamppost and set off into the bustle of London City's evening, Our Friends Electric by Tubeway Army hammering my eardrums. It was dull for April, dull and grey but thankfully not wet. I cycled in no hurry by traffic jams and the beautiful Royal Albert Hall where Dan and I had once gone to see... No, stop thinking about him. I rode on through the heady aroma of car exhaust fumes, a blooming grove of very Instagrammable pink and white flowering dogwood trees, honeymoon-faced couples strolling along the bike lane with their disgusting public displays of affection. Although the shadow of my dead relationship seemed to hang over every square inch of London, the Palace Gardens somehow dodged its darkness, and I knew that was where I needed to be. The gardens had served as my meeting point with my best friend Reed ever since we'd first met at university almost 8 years ago. It was just for us and our many shared secrets of crushes, mistakes, sex acts gone wrong, and everything in between. One afternoon after getting dumped, Reed had suggested that we go somewhere pretty, and well, this is where we'd ended up. This was the place that always reminded us that being out of love wasn't the end of the bloody world. There's still beauty and there's still one another, and that's something. I'd never taken Dan there, not once, though today I fully expected to arrive, take one look at Reed and word vomit about the breakup all over our sacred place as thoughts of it clenched my brain. I needed that sweet release with a trusted companion who wouldn't judge me for it. Reed was the only person in all of London left for me to really talk to. 10 minutes later, as I pulled up outside the gardens, my mind had turned to the mounds of my crap, and the crap I'd shared with Dan for 6 years, that awaited unboxing back in my new shared living space in Brixton. I'd finally secured a room to rent after a few blurry weeks spent sleeping on Reed's couch where, bi-weekly, I had no choice but to overhear his sexcapades and lie there wide-eyed at 2 a.m. staring at a ceiling wondering how I'd ended up in such a ridiculous position. Reed's apology involved helping me to move my entire life across London though, so I forgave him for subjecting me to the moans and the kinky talk I could have done without hearing. I couldn't say if me from a few months ago would have laughed it off. I couldn't remember her or how she managed to actually live life instead of just about coping with it. Physical evidence of an Erin who was planning her elaborate and perfect wedding, photos of pretty locations and set menu options, and voice messages to Reed of me waffling on about themed centerpieces just made me feel like the mountain before me was even taller than it probably was. A mountain that had slowly formed only to wedge itself into the timeline of my life, splitting it once again into before that big horrible thing and after that big horrible thing. A mountain I needed to climb. I was lost in a swirly-twirly labyrinth and under orders to find myself. I knew where I was standing and what the bushes in front of me looked like and the colour of the ground beneath my feet, but I hadn't a clue how to describe where I was at from sky view or which turn to take. I knew that I had to exist right there, but that absolutely terrified me because I didn't know how. Life with Dan was all I knew, but that was gone and it was all my fault. I'd only just cancelled the last of our wedding arrangements. The venue was unbooked, the dress returned. Well, I hadn't wanted to wear the thing, truth be told. I hated dresses, especially that one. It was so itchy. So many deposits lost, and Granny. She still didn't know that the man she considered a second son was out of the picture for good. Exhale. I chained up my old bicycle between lots of much prettier and newer bicycles before meandering my way through the sunken garden, terraced with flower beds and surrounding a pond with fountains, where tulips and wallflowers decorated my walk to the gate beneath the arched arbour of red-twigged lime. Knowing that Reed would arrive soon meant that calm could finally wrap itself around me like a warm cloak. It did, and I realised I'd probably been holding my breath for most of the journey from work. Now in the gardens, dotted with elderly folk strolling along with their dogs and with pairs of tourists taking photos, I felt safe. I pulled my earphones out and focused on my breath. My chest began to softly rise and fall, and everything was suddenly working properly inside my body again. And then Reed was coming at me down the grassy stretch ahead, wearing his cheeky grin and his jazzy bomber jacket with a boyish skip in his step and a small box of 6 donuts held out in front of his tiny body like treasure. My smile reached my eyes. I honestly love you right now. Jesus, gimme, I said. More than you love Louis Theroux? Reed asked. Just imagine him with an English accent. Head tilted. His lively voice was music to my ears. I'd been reaching for the box, but I snatched my hand back. I snapped, then tore open my jacket and my white work shirt to reveal an overwashed white tee featuring an expressionless headshot of the British journalist who inspired me more than any other, wearing his trademark glasses. He's dad of life. You just amuse me and feed me and listen to my problems. Are those glazed? Reed rolled his eyes and giggled, tongue between his front teeth, as I took the box. What do you take me for? Of course they are, you daft Irish bitch. You're losing your lovely plumpness, Beggy. What's that about? I wish, I said, expertly hiding my glee. I'm on the heartbreak diet, which consists of inconsistent servings of cherry Bakewell tarts mostly. Although my emotionally wrecked state was the reason I hadn't been eating properly and so I hadn't shifted unwanted pounds in a healthy manner, I couldn't help but revel in Reed's words at the fact that he'd noticed that I was a bit smaller. Pride patted me on the back. A silver lining to this clusterfuck of a situation. I mean, obviously, I needed to start eating properly again, but still. We sat on the old worn-down step in front of our go-to gate and together peeled open the polka dot box of Krispy Kremes. I absorbed the lip-smacking aroma of feather light just out of the fryer donuts, covered in sugary glaze, and my mouth filled with saliva. Go on then, what's he been saying? Reed asked through a mouthful of beige delight. Reed had refused to use Dan's name since the breakup, referring to him ever since as he. Probably to help me move on, and definitely because it was funny. I took a donut too, but didn't want to dive right into that conversation. I needed a moment out of my own head. No, I said. First you have to tell me what happened on the wine bar date last night. Your last drunk text said you changed the guy's name to Dairy Queen on your phone. Why? Oh yeah, for God's sake, Reed laughed. The twat scoffed some carbonara with his family right before our first date, even though he's allergic to dairy. I want to be a bold boy, he continued, impersonating his date in a try-hard, alluring tone. Keeps saying that over and over. Spends half the date in the bathroom with the shits. Belly laughter punctuate Reed's storytelling. Proceeds to tell me all about it. Describes the consistency, the smell, while I'm there, surrounded by candles, romantic music playing, the works, and me staring at this bloody cheese board I owe 20 quid for, which he obviously can't help me with, and a glorious bottle of equally expensive red. Decided then that he, like your ex, doesn't deserve to be referred to by name ever again. Erin, why is everyone apart from me and you so very crap? I swallowed mid-laugh. Reed had been so excited about this boy. Being single sounds hellish. After stuffing the rest of the donut into my face, I moaned and curled up into a ball, resting my forehead on my knees through the rips in my jeans. Really not looking forward to dating again, I said, with a toddler-small voice. I rolled my head to the side to face Reed. He sat back into his listening posture and stared at me, putting all his weight onto his hands behind him. I always loved when he did that, though I never told him so. I'm too old, mate. Week old, sliced pan, Tesco value bread. I'll be picking from the dregs of London, and even then, I'll be lucky if anyone's interested. The sad, chubby ginger with a journalism degree she doesn't use, that's what they'll call me. Almost 30 is the new 19, you silly fuck. Besides, you don't need to date again anytime soon. It's beggy time now. Also, and obviously anyone I do manage to pull will take one glance on my stupidly hot flatmate and realise they're insane to be with me. Why eat from Tesco when you can hit up M&S? When I first met Rachel a few days ago, I was like a person seeing the Northern Lights for the first time. She's so beautiful. It was difficult to believe she was a real human being. What's wrong with Tesco? We'd be dead without Tesco, Reed scoffed. I thought we agreed that you're going to take some time to focus on yourself. He delicately picked up another donut. Reed was handsome in the traditional sense, yet so very dainty at the same time. I will. I mean, I am. I'm just saying, well, like I'm not getting any younger, am I? If I ever want to have a family of my own, I want to start soon. Beggy, and I know I'm supposed to go with the flow of life and all that shite, but I just want to be, well, you know. He nodded. I'm still allowed to think these thoughts out loud to you, right? Reed observed me some more. Okay, I feel that. The future's scary, and every year goes by faster the older we get, but living with a literal manic pixie dream girl is pissing on my optimism about my future prospects is all. The competition in this city makes me feel so gross, I told him, looking off into the distance. Elaborate. Rachel. She's bouncy and smiley, but like in an annoying way. She never ever stops. She's 24, so basically a child, with long hair that brushes off her perfect arse. I bet she's never had a black head in her entire life. Reed chose not to feed my jealousy. What does she do? It's her apartment, right? It is, but I don't know how, because she's just a dancer and a part-time art teacher. Neither of those jobs would pay for a London apartment, surely. I mumbled, all bitter, as I picked at the skin around my nail polish-free thumbs, thinking about how she must have received a big old chunk of inheritance or something. Well, maybe she dances in the West End, or maybe her parents are filthy rich. Anyway, you never know. You two could become the best of friends. Maybe she'll even replace me, and your dad'll rejoice because you'll have ditched the gay, he teased. Nah, there's more chance of my blog actually taking off than that ever happening. She's far too together for me. And you know I don't have much luck with female friends. Remember Tara? Tara had used me to help her score better grades at university, and then she dropped off the face of the earth along with the entire friend group I've been sending my class notes and homework to on her instruction. Besides, Dad wouldn't care. I'd be painting over one shade of gay with another. I think Rachel's into girls, or, well, everyone, really. I recalled my first evening with Rachel, during which she took me on a wild conversational ride through her colourful sex life. By the end of it, I felt like a prudish shrew. Forget her, okay? You're here to listen to me vent, I said, hoping to move the conversation along quickly. I regretted mentioning my blog at all. If Reed asked about it, I'd have to admit I hadn't updated it in almost 2 months, and that my sparkly dream of becoming an esteemed digital journalist was sinking like a stone in the Irish Sea. As always, Reed tilted his head back to look at the sky, and there was a moment of comfortable silence as birdsong and the hecticness of London pulsed around us. When I didn't continue, he gently pressed me again, taking another donut. Is he still leaving cringe voice messages? He's moved on to writing me letters. Propped the last one outside the door to my new place. Rachel gave it to me after her morning run the other day. Yeah, she actually runs before work, the nutter. Thing is, I never actually told Dan where I moved to, I said with a grimace. You didn't tell him, did you? It was clear from Reed's expression that he was mulling over his words. Well, you did spend years with him, Erin. I just stared at him so he'd know I was fuming. Okay, look, hear me out. He showed up, banging the door down, while I was trying to bang a beautiful boy, to distract myself from the fact that the love of my life, who also happens to be my boss, just got married. Reed explained it as though Martin's wedding wasn't something he talked about 100 times since it had happened. I grabbed another donut in frustration, hoping that Reed wouldn't start harping on about Martin again. Could this be guilt for encouraging me to call off the wedding? Does Reed think I made a mistake? Do I think I made a mistake? Beggy, I was drunk, Reed continued, and I figured you hadn't got around to updating him. You're actually going to ghost him? Don't turn this back on me. All I wanted was a clean break, fresh start, you know, like we talked about. I thought you were on my side. It's not about sides. It's about everyone picks a side when two people break up. You and Dan weren't even friends. All you ever did was slag him off. Why slag everybody off? Where's this Team Dan shite after coming from? I asked. Why do you care about his feelings? You won't even say his name. I thought we were on the same page about the whole vanishing into thin air on people thing. It's cruel. You didn't tell me you were planning on never speaking to him again. Did I even say that? Not wanting someone to know where you live says that. Look, I just felt bad for the guy. He didn't do anything wrong. I know what it feels like to be ignored, and it kills Beggy. My ears turned red with fury heat. He's still begging for another chance, so promising things will change for the billionth time, I said, trying to justify my lack of effort at being a decent human being. Dan always said he loved me unconditionally, but nah, he loved me on the condition that I stayed with him. He's not treating me with love. He's making this horrible. Reed said nothing. Then, terrified by the idea that I could be pushing my only friend away, I changed the subject. The only other person who has ever written me letters is Granny Beglin, because she's ancient and she won't let me or Dad buy her a phone. Success. Reed pulled his incredulous with a hint of a smile face, the one he always pulled when I told him tales of my granny. Like how she drinks about a bottle of wine a day and smokes like it's going out of style, but apparently is somehow still in good health. Her doctors dubbed her Inishbeg Village's medical marvel. Funny though, Dan will go through all that effort of leaving me letters at work, at my new place, at yours, but he won't even forward on my mail. I asked him to forward everything to yours for the time being. That's why I'm so annoyed with him. That's why I need to go over tonight. I'm waiting on a letter from Granny and some bills. I jumped from light to heavy fidgeting, thinking about my current lack of funds. I really didn't want to ask Dad for another loan. He was off travelling the world with his wife, having a blast. I'd love to meet your granny, you know. Maybe she'd fall in love with me. Nah, my marriage didn't end when I became a widow. That's literally a thing she said. Wow, that's the sweetest thing. Cute little bitch. I know, I want that, I said, thinking about the tales Granny had told me over the years about how perfect her marriage to my granddad was. Unfortunately, I'd never met him, but Granny had been sure to paint a vivid picture of their blissful love, of how much Grandad doted on her, of how they maintained the ritual of date night right up until his dying days, and of how she looked forward to spending eternity with him in the afterlife, as she called it. I'd basically fallen out of the womb envious of their relationship. It was legendary. I didn't want to settle for less. Bet she'll think Dan is super romantic when you tell her that he's been writing to you. I shot Reed a look. Actually, yeah, maybe don't tell her that. Granny loves Dan. Bloody nervous about telling her. She'll probably be so disappointed. I'm her only grandchild, you know. Oh. I did love him, right? Are you sure I've not ruined my life? You totally and completely loved him. For a few years, anyway. You made him a cute playlist. You baked for him. You baked for a man. And you licked his... Ew, stop. That must have been someone who looked a lot like me, I said with a side smirk. But what if I sabotaged a good thing? Something that could have stayed good? Then you sabotaged a good thing, he shrugged. Consider it sabotaged. Learn from it and don't sabotage the next thing. His words curled my shoulders forward. Or maybe you didn't. I wasn't part of it. All I know is it went to shit. Doesn't really matter why at this stage, does it? You both seemed miserable for months. Mainly you. Especially with his mummy dearest always shoving her nose in. Josephine, don't. I never want to think about that woman again. What's the opposite of rose-tinted glasses? Black eyes that you can hardly see through, courtesy of life itself. Half laughing, Reed hesitated, then asked, You're not actually having second thoughts, are you? His blue eyes darted around, scanning my face. I defiantly shook my head in response to the feelings that bubbled inside me upon hearing that question out loud. Feelings about my ticking clock, about family expectations, the fear of starting over with someone new or being found half-eaten by cats in a flat stinking of loneliness, fear of the empty bed awaiting me in my new place. A young woman pushed a stroller by us. A single mother, perhaps? There's always sperm donors. I had jokingly, dead seriously, suggested going down that route to Dad when I'd called him after cancelling the wedding. Dad was the second last hurdle. Granny was next, and he'd been warned not to utter a word to her until I'd seen her myself. We chatted about life and where mine was headed, and Dad hadn't been all that keen on the notion of me starting my own family. I figured he'd hoped that I'd have a more traditional family, or that I'd at least become financially independent before considering such things. Maybe he just didn't think I had it in me to go it alone. Regardless, I dropped it. And I really didn't want to talk about it with anyone else, because Most people made me feel like I shouldn't even want a baby because it's the 21st century and women only want babies because they've been brainwashed into thinking they want babies. They can't think for themselves. No way. Women's brains lack the capacity to make informed decisions, obviously. No, I said eventually. I'd never go back to him. Well, him and Josephine. I could never marry him without marrying them both. Dan would let his ma wipe his arsehole if she offered. I can't be around that woman anymore. She's detestable, Reed said. Besides, Dan just rubs me up the wrong way nowadays, even when he's not trying to. Plus, he was never really there for you with your blog and stuff. This wasn't entirely true, but I didn't want to correct Reed. All of my complaining had likely painted that picture in his mind, and I felt bad enough already. And he was always so, passive-aggressive. This I could latch on to. Yeah, ugh, I said, my face contouring. Don't remind me. I'm not angry, Erin. Fine then, Erin. I'm only joking, Erin. I was meant to be the one person he could open up to, and he'd never just say what he meant. But what if it was my fault that he didn't feel comfortable, communicating? Like, what if he never finds someone he can be real with? And what if... Stop feeling bad. Stop replaying every little what if, Reed said, tapping my forehead, or I'll chuck you off a bridge somewhere. Okay? This Williams boy could paint a smile onto the saddest of faces. Go on, have the last donut. After all, you're now on, day 43 of no sex? Stop, I said. I've had 2 whole periods since the last time Dan and I even shifted. Shifted? Made out, snogged, whatever. Bloody Irishisms. Reed kicked at the side of the donut box with one of his dazzling white vans. Let's walk and fight over who has it worse right now. You, with your abysmal job and clingy ex, or me, with my STD and my unrequited love. We walked several laps of the gardens and laughed so much that we both cried until we ended up back where my bicycle was chained. I'd called it rusty, way back in my teens, because it was, so very, almost more so than the shade of my hair. I'd stuck a new basket on the front at Christmas. Now it looks even worse, Reed had said, and he reminded me again now, as always, that he wouldn't be caught dead riding Rusty around London. I'd grown impatient of his taunts. Well, I'm not going to replace it. It was Mam's. Nostalgic mess, he half whispered, rolling his eyes, knowing I'd appreciate the humour. And I did. I truly hated serious chats about my mum's death, and avoided them even more than I avoided mirrors during daylight hours. This bicycle and a few old photographs and keepsakes were all that I had left of her. I'd spent 2,982 days, yes, I'd done the maths, with Mam, before she passed away. And although I no longer experienced the white-hot, agonising pain of grief, I lived each day with a mam-shaped hole in my life, and all I could stuff that hole with were the scraps of her left behind for me. Look, it's worth looking like Mad Bike Lady to feel like she's still here. That awful lump in throat feeling. Push it down. Mad Bike Lady and not girl is right, Reed said. Can't believe you're almost 30. When do we get so old? When you find out, tell me so I can start a hashtag in protest of ageing. Maybe we'll wake up 21 again. So many wild shags ahead, so much hope for the future. I forced myself to sound nonchalant. Thoughts of Mam, and of the void Reed would leave when he went home, carved out room inside me for tension to set up camp and build a fire. I have a surprise for you, Beggy, Reed said. Unless it's a dog, I don't want it, I joked, suddenly curious. He gave me an early birthday present then. He'd had my gift wrapped and hidden in a tiny metallic backpack hanging from his shoulder all along. My text had alerted him to my need for cheering up, and besides, I probably wouldn't see him again as a 29-year-old. I swallowed the thought immediately so it couldn't dry my throat from top to bottom. Is it dentures? Coupons? A nose hair trimmer? It was a makeup kit, one of the ones featured all over Instagram, fitted out for a person with green eyes and red hair. I swatched the colours on the back of my hand and poured out thank yous, all the while thinking about how Mam would have loved something like this. We had similar features, she and I, only she'd possessed more glamour than adult me in her littlest toe, and even on her laziest of days, early 90s, when she'd walk me to the schoolyard, heels clicking the pavement alongside me, my hair a cotton candy tangle in the wind, she'd never owned makeup like this, so fancy and luxurious with beautiful rose gold packaging. I remembered playing with her cheap blue eyeshadow duo that she'd bought from an Avon lady, and her words, "This is one of Mammy's only nice things. It's not a toy, darling. Promise you won't mess with it again." Reed and I hugged and said goodbye. I think he knew I was breaking. His eyes flashed with understanding. And I took off on Rusty as the sky turned to pewter, with my 30th birthday present in Rusty's basket, thinking about how my own Mam never reached 30 herself. And about my donut guilt. And my new shared flat, complete with painfully perfect flatmate / landlord. And about Dan. Dan. Yeah, we moved swiftly into the story. It's just kind of setting up. Thanks for letting me read to you.
Yeah, that was really soothing.
Soothing.
Yeah, it's really good.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I want to know all the things that happen.
The things that happen.
Yeah.
I do feel like the story kind of really starts from chapter 4, but I feel like I had to set up stuff beforehand because otherwise it just wouldn't be as impactful. I always think of Harry Potter as the main example because like when he's told he's a wizard, they've kind of established that he's just has this miserable life in the Dursleys and everything like that, and that's just kind of the story structure that I really like. It does get quite juicy and spicy and things start happening and all, but I just wanted to establish the two characters at the start and like how important her best friend is to her and how annoying she is. But yeah.
Oh no, it's really good. Like, Oliver, I just can't believe you wrote all that, and that's only the first chapter. Like, it's unreal. Like,
I'm much more proud of like how it goes as it goes along because I did write most of it chronologically.
Yeah.
And at the beginning, I didn't really know how to put words, string sentences together in this genre. I used to write when I was a teenager a lot, like stories, and I started 2 books, or no, I finished a book and then I did like half of another book, and they were like fantasy for young adults, so this is just not like a genre I'm used to. But I love the third part of the book, like it's part 1, 2 and 3, and I'm really satisfied with the ending. And the reviews so far on NetGalley have been amazing. Like people who don't know me have been reviewing it, and they're all
saying really nice things.
Yeah, really nice things.
4 and 5-star things.
Even the people who gave it like, you know, a 3-star review or whatever, like didn't really say anything bad. Like they explained why it didn't get higher kind of thing, but they all had things they really liked about it, even the people who were saying it wasn't for them. So yeah, if you want a summer read, you can read my thing, and
I can't wait to get my coffee.
Yeah, you can read it before flying your planes. Between flying your planes.
Oh, baby.
Baby.
You wrote a whole second book, a whole fiction,
a whole novel.
There's a whole world in there that came out of your brain.
Yeah. I feel like they're real people. So there's a slow burn love story as well, and it's, you know, a friend who she'd known as a teenager, and they had a little. He fancied her a little bit. Like, he's not really like you. I didn't want it to be. I didn't want to do a whole like self-insert in the first book. I just felt like even Erin is very different from me in a lot of ways. Like, some stuff comes through, but she is mostly based on like friends and different characters that I like from books and YouTubers that I watch, and the same with the love interest. But I don't like insta romances and stories. Like, I like when there's proper reasons why 2 people end up, you know. Yeah, so I think that was a little bit inspired by you. Like, there's one paragraph later in the book that is I wrote with you in mind, and I'll see if you can figure out which one it is. And you're one of the people I dedicated the book to.
Yeah, I got a little shout out in there. Like, even just what's covered there, and it hasn't even like mentioned anything to do with like the magic element of the story.
No, that's all kind of Erin's granny's very fond of the drink, and she worries that the granny is, you know, getting Alzheimer's or something when she starts telling her all about this. So that I really like how, like, chapter 4 was so fun to write. That's the one I wrote when I locked myself in a hotel room in Spain. So chapter 4 was like yeah, and I feel I got really into it from chapter 4 onwards. Yeah, so now if you go and buy it, you can start at chapter 2. So can you.
I'm going to start with chapter 1. I'm going to read it again.
Chapter 2 is where she goes back to where she lived with her ex-fiancé.
Dan, the man. There's so much going on. Because I already know like the general story of what's going to happen. But even the couple of things that's been covered already is really... It's really good. I'm really impressed. I'm in shock. But I knew it was going to be good. But... it's just so good. Oh.
This video is probably really long. We should go. We need to do a gym.
Yeah, let's go to the gym. To do a fitness. I'm sleepy now after you're reading to me.
Are you?
Yeah.
Oh, I should read the rest to you.
Yeah.
I can read all of it to you.
You could read a chapter a night.
Yeah. Remember to thumbs up if you would like a little inspiring video about how to get shit done in your life. From us too, because I think we've a lot of advice, and we're not going to speak from a place of privilege or anything like that. Like, we'll give advice that anyone could use. Yeah. Like, general stuff.
That's fine by me.
Yeah. And thanks for listening. If you listened all this way, I bet you most of them are gone.